However, if we have benefits, we have issues, constraints, and challenges too. Expansion in seaweed production would need to be accommodated by increase in seaweed demand. One way is to increase seaweed consumption as human foods, which tends to utilize seaweeds efficiently and generate more income for seaweed farmers. Nearshore operations tend to be less expensive in terms of both investment and operation costs. Multiple factors pose constraints or challenges to seaweed cultivation in nearshore areas, including, among others, competition for nearshore areas from urban development, recreation, fishing, fish farming, and other activities, pollution in nearshore waters, and rising seawater temperatures. Seaweed cultivation usually entails a large amount of labor in planting, daily maintenance, harvesting, and post-harvest handling, with a seasonal or occasional demand. That is, large number of workers are needed for a short time period to harvest seaweeds at the optimal time to ensure desirable quality. I think Malaysia has this problem, but not in the Philippines, because you have a shortage of labor. Technical, economic, and institutional constraints complicate the integration of seaweed cultivation with other aquaculture activities. The quality of seedlings had become increasingly crucial under deteriorating farming environments, just like the Philippines and also Malaysia, such as rising seawater temperature and more frequent and severe disease outbreaks. Outsourcing good quality seed stocks from specialized hatcheries is a common practice in aquaculture, yet mainstreaming the business model could be difficult for some seaweeds like Capophycus and Eucuma. Other significant issues hindering seaweed cultivation and value chains include: one, deteriorating farming environments because of climate change, such as rising seawater temperatures, increasing extreme weather conditions, and more voracious grazing of predators. Two, more frequent and severe disease outbreaks. Three, high transportation costs. Four, high intermediary costs. Five, low and fluctuating market prices, including uncertain export prices due to exchange rate fluctuations. We all know that seaweeds and carrageenan are market-driven commodities. Six, low incomes for seaweed farmers. Seven, suboptimal practices, that is premature harvesting owing to financial constraints or unstable market conditions. 8, low quality due to inappropriate post-handling. And 9, lack of value addition. I just would like to show you some common species of seaweeds of economic importance of the Philippines and Sabah, and these are Sargassum, Caularpa, Ulva, Eucuma, Gracilaria, Halimenia, and Capophycus. So let's take a look on the major industry stakeholders of the Philippines. There are three major stakeholders. Basically, seaweed farming in the Philippines is the family type of aquaculture activity composed of 170 to 180,000 families. That includes the children, the aunties, the uncles, and even the grandparents. And then we have the traders, which is composed of 20 to 30 regular ones and 15 processors with 3 processors producing refined carrageenan and 12 for semi-refined carrageenan, either as food grade or for pet food. The SRC processors have also the capacity to produce alkali-treated chips or ATC. So in terms of the seaweed carrageenan industry, there are 3 refined carrageenan processors, 2 for KCl precipitated and 1 alcohol precipitated factory, and 12 semi-refined processors with a total nominal capacity per year of almost 35,000 metric tons, 6,000 of which are for RC and 29,000 for SRC. ATC has also a combined capacity of 3,400 metric tons per year. Total dried seaweed requirement is about 196,000 metric per year for RDS, which translates to 1.57 74 million fresh Kappa ficus. So we are almost hitting the target of this production in the Philippines. So if we take on the Philippines now, this is the production from 2017 to 2019. Mindanao dominates the production with 6 provinces, especially in the Muslim provinces like Tawi-Tawi, Sulu, Maguindanao, Zamboanga Peninsula, composed of Zamboanga Sibugay and Zamboanga City and Del Norte. And 2 provinces is from Luzon, that is Palawan and Camarines Norte, and the Visayas in Bohol and Antique. We should remember that the southern part of the Philippines, mainly the Mindanao region, is seldom visited by typhoons. Hence, seaweed production is really favorable or almost ideal in that area. So if we take a look on this graph from 1996 to 2020, seaweed production, it can be gleaned that an increasing pattern of volume was seen from 1996 to 2011, though in a small quantity, but thereafter, since 2012, a decreasing pattern. In fact, it is a roller coaster pattern. Information from the industry has reached me that 2021 will not be a rosy year for seaweed production due to COVID-19 pandemic. Seaweed caragioning industry of the Philippines is worth $252 million according to FAO. Its volume of production as a marine commodity ranks number 1, but in terms of export value, it ranks number 3. Looking the graph at the upper left corner, the decreasing production has 3 major reasons. These are mainly due to 1, repeated vegetative propagation of Alvarezi since 1970 to the present times. Cuttings from harvest, selecting only the young and healthy branches, are taken as new seedlings for the next growing period, and this is repeatedly done to the present. 2, long-term production as a monocrop by extensive surface cultivation. Both practices, 1 and 2, led to low genetic variation and loss of strain vigor, further leading the biomass to susceptibility to pathogens, diseases, and epi-endophyte infestation as seen in the pictures on the right. 3, poor farming practices and management and lack of biosecurity measures. Despite available new technologies to be adopted from local research and innovations and from other countries, traditional practices handed down from the first generation of seaweed farmers to their next kin still prevail to the present times, leading to low productivity and overall production. 4, adverse effects of climate change, especially in coastal shallow areas. A shift from shallow fixed off-bottom cultivation to deeper waters using hanging long lines, multiple rough long lines are encouraged in available cultivable areas. So the biggest question is how to address these problems, which keep on bugging the stakeholders. With all the published papers, personal experiences of yours truly, plus the works of colleagues in the academe, we can possibly contribute in solving the problems in order to have a robust, sustainable, and successful seaweed aquaculture industry. I cannot do it alone. It is a concerted effort of everybody from the academe like you, the government and non-government agencies, and the private sector, to include the farmers, traders, processors, and end users. There are 4 possible strategies for this problem. 1, conservation of wild population as sources of new stock. Based from the Global Seaweed Star project we have, research results we have still available new stocks to choose from. Biobanking of this potential raw wild population is thus imperative. 2, establishment of seedling banks through the use of tissue culture techniques and sporulation. The establishment of land-sea-based nurseries is necessary to generate year-round availability of good quality seedlings. And 4, we must adopt good aquaculture practices for seaweeds, that is from A to Z, that is from selection of cultivation site, species, strain selection, to marketing of the dried seaweed. So in 2017, A GCRF UKRI Global Seaweed Star project was done in the Philippines together with Malaysia and Tanzania to look into safeguarding the future of the seaweed industry of the Philippines, consisting of 4 work packages, namely detection of pest and disease infestation, farm management and biosecurity measures, stock improvement, and economic resilience to answer some of the major challenges of the seaweed industry. To fulfill these work packages, we had a thorough field works and surveys of the top 4 eukimotoi producing provinces of the country, namely Bohol, Zamboanga, Palawan, and Tawi-Tawi. For work package 1, we have 3 highlights. Ice disease, or IDD, were found in all sites, however, at low prevalence. Epiphytic filamentous, or the endophytes, like black spots, and evidence of grazings are also very minimal, but also determined. But there is high severity of IDD on secondary and primary branches. And it can be said that there was a widespread occurrence of yield-limiting diseases and pests affecting eukimotoi farms in the Philippines. Strategies for the diagnosis, surveillance, and management of yield-limiting pests and disease are therefore needed to ensure maintenance and sustainable expansion. The survey for work package 2, the survey identified the gaps in knowledge, attitude, and practices toward pest and disease outbreaks, which ultimately provided robust evidence for seaweed policy development. However, we found out that seaweed farmers have high knowledge of seaweed farming, but low in practice, which simply means that what they know, they do not practice. There's a need then to have a continuous education of seaweed farming so that they will be trained and updated with the latest technologies in the academy. For package 3, there is a diversified color variants of Capophycus and Eukima present in the country, just like Malaysia also. And Capophycus albersi is distinctly different from Striatus and also from Denticulatum. And there seems to be the presence of new haplotypes, which means there are new candidates, new species for possible or further exploration for their development. These results point to the conservation of natural population through biobanking as source of new and improved eukimatoids for future studies, domestication, and finally commercial cultivation. And 4, this is mainly about the social structure and nature of support mechanism and production segment to understand differential access of women and men to information, resources, and services. It has been found out that men has more access to resources and information than the women. As highlighted, the relevance of using SNA in value chain analysis to understand the relationship patterns among the actors and their implications policymaking on overall governance of the seaweed industry. You cannot have any industry without the seaweed farmers. So we have to understand the mechanics on how our farmers are really doing their activities day in and day out. Why are there crosses in my slides? And we have also the economic resilience by the seaweed farmers. Can you see the crosses, the red crosses in my slides? Hello?
Yes, but no problem, Professor. We can see the rest clearly.
Yeah, in my slides here, there are no in the original one. What happened? So anyway, I just want to finish this slide. And there are environmental risk and risk management in this package, and we were able to find out how the farmers.
Yang dikembalikan itu yang plastik hitam itu kalau naik mobil, kemudian plastik yang putih itu yang dari Unida.
For audience, please turn off your mic.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Hello?
yes, clearly
Okay.
we can hear you.
So I was saying a while ago that there are a lot of environmental risks like disease and pests and gender differences on how the farmers, the traders, processors perceive this risk and how do they manage it. So far to this date, we have already some milestone. We have published some papers, 6 of them in peer-reviewed journals. We have also a brochure, and there is an English, the local languages, the Bisaya, the Tagalog, or the Filipino, and the Tausu. You can probably ask or request the English one for your reference. So going back to the strategies to address the challenges of the 4 major ones, Global Seaweed Star was able to address directly number 1 and number 4. Numbers 2 and 3 were not yet done, but before I discussed 2 and 3 challenges, let me give you a short background on biostimulants. Like, for example, how to address or how to control marine plant diseases. And according to Dr. Gassion, there are 3 interventions we can do: nutritional, then 2 breeding disease-resistant algal varieties, and challenging and countering the pathogen with microorganisms that is friendly to the host. All these phyconomic intervention strategies have direct parallels to land-based agronomic practices, like use of seed treatments, breeding and selecting productive cultivars, production of hybrid plants, applications of fertilizers or phytobiostimulants, and plant protection agents. So personally, and with my collaborations with colleagues, we were able to address partly strategy 1, that is nutritional intervention using biostimulant. Let me describe first what biostimulants are. There are many formulations with varying ingredients, which includes the following: humic substances, seaweed extracts, beneficial bacteria, and beneficial fungi. Other products may contain chitosan, protein hydrolysates, and inorganic compounds. To begin with, biostimulant. In all our seaweed studies, we use Ascophyllum nodosum, locally known as a rockweed, which are abundantly distributed and found along the shorelines in cold waters in west coast of Europe, northern Canada, and the United States. The seaweed extract is known as Ascophyllum marine plant extract powder, or simply Unpad. Literature have said that it enhanced the root vigor, increased leaf thallus chlorophyll content, increase in the number of leaves branches, improve fruits biomass yield, heightened flavonoid antioxidant content, being a brown seaweed, and enhanced vegetative propagation, and more importantly, it improved tolerance toward abiotic stresses like drought, freezing, high salinity and temperature, or even light intensity. And the first report was made by Hurtado et al. In 2009 in micropropagation using the tissue culture techniques in Capophycus albersi, as shown in this picture or in this slide. So we were able to generate plantlets using the Unpad as the major nutrient plus PGRs also. And the new plantlets generated from the lab were further mass produced, then grown in tanks, and finally outplanted in floating cylindrical net cages, which were later tested in a commercial farm in Zamboanga City in collaboration with the Seaweed Farmers Association in 2011 and 2012. And again, in a government seaweed research center for mass production and consequently for distribution to seaweed farmers in 2012. My collaboration with Malaysia started when I was invited by Dr. Siti of UN Terengganu to give a lecture and hands-on practical training on euchematide micropropagation in February 2016. Followed by UMS Seaweed Lab Unit by Dr. Suhaimi in September 2016 for a 10-day on-site training for Dr. Majid Ali and 2 BS Biotech students. Since 2017 to the present, my collaboration with Dr. Ali at USM on seaweed micropropagation and field cultivation to include ice, epiphyte, and endophyte mitigation remains strong as reflected in the following slides. In his several studies from mass propagation to sea-based nurseries to field cultivation in cooperation with seaweed farmers in Semporna, Dr. Ali generated several different colomorphotypes of K. alvarezi and K. striatus in his studies, which are now currently grown in Semporna in collaboration with some seaweed farmers. To expedite the transfer of technology in Malaysia and the Philippines, we prepared this guidebook, a very simple and easy guide to follow in the micropropagation of eumetoids. If interested, please email the authors. For further readings, please read this book chapter, which describes all the studies from micropropagation, sea-based nurseries, field cultivation, mitigation of pests and disease, and quality of SRC and RC using Unpad. This is a multi-authored book chapter from Southeast Asia, like Drs. Ianis and Dr. Majid, Canada, Poland, Portugal. This is published by Alshiber, and those who are interested, please email me or Dr. Majid. My seaweed research accomplishment and collaborations, plus results of our Global Seaweed Star project complement each other, and accomplishment also of other institutions, both public and private, contributed towards a robust, sustainable, and successful seaweed aquaculture industry of the Philippines. This can be done also in Malaysia. The final question is there a future of the seaweed industry? I cannot do it alone. You cannot do it alone. The seaweed farmers, the academe, research centers, funding institutions, government agencies, traders, private sectors, processors, and the end users need to work harmoniously with a compassionate and dedicated heart to make this industry a robust one. We have been there several decades ago. We are still here, and we keep on sailing to the end. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for the nice presentation, Professor Anesia Hurtado. We can see, let's move to session of question and answer session. I already see some question here for Miss Professor Anesia. First from Dr. Wahida from UNS. The question is, what is the status of land-based seaweed nurseries in the Philippines? It is massively being applied and built?
Insofar as, thank you very much for your question. Insofar as
Yes.
land-based seaweed aquaculture in the Philippines, for Capophycus we don't have, but for Gracilaria and Caudarpa we have in fish ponds, but not in tanks yet. So it is not pursued commercially insofar as land-based culture is concerned in the Philippines.
Okay. The second question from Fajar from Unpad. How the development of the using seaweed for against the bacterial fungal in Philippine fisheries sector? How to manage the bacterial fungal attack, Dr. Anesia?
Okay. That is why in my slides a while ago we have three interventions using nutritional enrichment to the thallus or to the plant itself, and then you have to challenge also the host. But among the three strategies, we are still yet on number one, nutritional enrichment of the plant. That is why using Unpad, the phycobiostimulant, in lethal concentrations, it can mitigate. We have two papers of Dr. Ali et al. 2018 and 2020, wherein that can be said that using the seaweed extract as a phycobiostimulant, because it has the properties to really tolerate abiotic stresses brought by climate changes.
Okay, thank you very much for the answer. And the next question is from for Professor Anisha. Is there any legislation, regulation tools, and national standard being implemented to seaweed operator in Philippines? What is the acceptance level of seaweed community of all the biosecurity measures introduced to them? Maybe that is the question.
Yeah. Actually, there is a national seaweed standards we are following, but sometimes the seaweed farmers do not follow. That is why we are now revising. In fact, it was today also that I should be there in that seaweed standards attending, because I'm one of the technical working group of that committee. But we are now, because of the results of our global seaweed star on biosecurity measures, I really included these biosecurity measures for the standards of seaweeds, not only in seaweed farming, but also on the dried seaweed and also on processing. And hopefully this will be all implemented to minimize some problems in the future.
Okay. Maybe this is the last question here. Interesting question maybe from Jimmy Calter from CVI Indonesia. The question is, how is COVID-19 pandemic affecting the seaweed industry in Philippines? What has been done by the stakeholder to lessen the impact, if any? Maybe not in Philippines only. COVID-19 is affect to all countries in the world. Maybe you have some opinion here, Professor Anisha?
Yes. In all honesty, seaweed industry in the Philippines slowed down because of restriction in travels. So even though our seaweed farmers continue to farm the seaweed, but they can only farm a little just for sustenance, for their daily sustenance. I was informed by the industry, the exporters as well as the processors, that they're still buying the dried seaweed. So there is of course an impact of the COVID-19 because of travel restrictions. Because one thing sure, we have been locked down for how many? Almost 2 years now. So yes. It's still there. But as I have said a while ago, that it will not be as rosy as in previous years. So yeah, but once we will have ease on travel restriction, then I think it will pick up. The seaweed farmers are very resilient, especially the Filipinos. We are very resilient.
Okay, maybe there is many questions here, but the time is we have to move to the other presenter. Maybe Professor Anisha, you can give your answer and opinion in the chat room or something. Yes. Thank you for your presentation, for your share today. Nice talk. Thank you very much for Anisha Hurtado.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Now we proceed to second speaker, Mrs. Wahidatul Husna Zuldit. She is lecturer of Borneo Marine Research Institute, University Malaysia, Sabah. with expertise seaweed culture. And her topic today is seaweed from the sea to the kitchen. Very interesting topic, maybe. Let's give the floor for Mrs. Wahidatul. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yuli, for the brief introduction. So a very good morning, I bid to all the audiences that we have today. I think we have around 47 participants who are joining us for the International Talk Series number 4. So today I'll be doing a very casual sharing with all of you. First of all, allow me to share my screen. All right, can you see my screen? All right, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Yeah, so this will be just a casual sharing regarding the application of seaweeds in the industry. So my name is Wahidatul Husna Zulbin, as per introduced by Dr. Yuli just now. I'm from the Borneo Marine Research Institute. So the topic for today is seaweed, bringing it from the sea to the kitchen, bringing seaweed to our house, all right, or maybe to our businesses and so forth. So first of all, I would like to share the fun fact regarding seaweed. I know in Malaysia, there are some assumptions saying that there are collagen in seaweed. But actually, the truth is there's no collagen in seaweed, because collagen is a type of protein being produced in animal or maybe in some beans. So just to correct the fact that there's no collagen in seaweed, but they do have, even though it may look like a broccoli or maybe it look like some sort of vegetables, but they are not real plant like terrestrial plant. All right, so they are plant like marine organisms. And then, all right, so just to share, maybe Prof. Anisha already mentioned this now. What are seaweeds, right? Just to introduce to all of us, for those who might be new to know about seaweed. Seaweed is actually a type of marine macroalgae, okay? Or just I mentioned just now, they are plant-like organisms that generally live attached to some substrates, or maybe some corals or rocks or at the bottom of the sea surface. So they need substrate to attach to as a support system, and also as for them to grow. All right. And then, so there are actually 3 types of seaweed. Okay, the first one is the brown seaweed. I know in Indonesia and Philippines, we also have this type of species, which are common in the Asian countries. Okay, we have for laminaria, these are the ones that can be found in China and maybe some of the Western countries, because this what we call kelp, a giant kelp. And some people consume it as kombu in Japan. All right, and then we have fucus species. Fucus species also used as medicinal seaweed. And the common one that we have in Philippines, Malaysia, and also Indonesia, we have sagasem. All right, so sagasem, if you've ever been to the Malaysian coastal area, we can find them floated around our seashores. If you just walk by the beach, you can find this species being carried away by the wave, right, by the tide. And then the second type is the red seaweed. So the red seaweed, as mentioned by Prof. Anisha just now, some of the species are Capophycus and Euchema, which are very commercial nowadays. They cultivated the species to extract carrageenan for industrial application. And we also have Pyropia. If any of you like to eat sushi or kimbap, they use Pyropia species as nori. Nori is some kind of sushi wrapping. It looks like a sheet of paper that is used for sushi wrapping, and it's very nice taste actually, very tasty. And we also have Chondrus species. This one applied in some area in Ireland. They turn them into seasoning. And the third type is green seaweed. All right, green seaweed is very also common in Malaysia, Philippines, and Indonesia. Okay, for example, the Colopa species, or in Philippines they call it lato. I'm not sure in Indonesia they also have this kind of species. Here in Sabah in Malaysia, We also call Colopa as lato. So these are among the common species that we consume in our country and also in Asian country. Okay. All right. So this is just to refresh the demand for the seaweed. All right. If there's no demand, there will not be any cultivation. So if you can see, seaweed have been cultivated all around the world, not only in Asia. Okay, we can find seaweed in North America, also in Latin America, for example, in Chile, also in Europe. In Europe, they cultivated kelp or Laminera and Saccharina species, in mostly in around, say, Asian Pacific country. Okay, so seaweed is famous all around the world. It's just that different species will be cultivated within different region or different country. So the demand is there. That's why we go for cultivation, right? And some people, some countries might do fisheries, meaning they straight away capture the seaweed from the sea and bring it back to the land, right? And some started to cultivate, as mentioned by Prof. Anisha in her presentation just now. All right. And then these are the example of seaweed cultivation or seaweed farming in USA. This is kelp or Laminera species being farmed in Maine, USA, United States of America. And also we have, this is the seaweed farm in Semporna in Sabah, Malaysia. And we have seaweed aquaculture in Norway, right, in the European country. And we have massive seaweed aquaculture in China. Another example in Indonesia. This is very nice. My experience, I've been to Bali once, and I've seen they cultivated seaweed just like paddy field. And it's very interesting to have, you know, seaweed being cultivated all around you and touching the seaweed just like paddy field. Very nice to see and very nice to have this kind of scenic view in our place. So if you wanna experience a massive seaweed cultivation, please go to Indonesia. All right. Once the pandemic's over. So we know that why people started to have seaweed cultivation is because of the increased world population. All right, the increment of the world population will lead to the increment in demand for food and jobs. That's why people would go for another opportunity, which is having seaweed cultivation as part of the economic activity. All right, so as you can see, aquaculture is the most famous activities because we know people love to eat fish, people love to eat mollusks, shells, and so forth. All right, that's why another aquaculture product besides fishes, mollusks, shrimp, lobsters, and so forth, we also have algae, right? Regardless of macroalgae or microalgae. Macroalgae means the huge organisms, right? The huge algae that we can see, we can touch, which are tangible. However, microalgae, the one very small, that you very minute, and you need to use microscope to look at it, to look for the growth, right? However, the cost to produce microalgae is much bigger compared to the one if you cultivated macroalgae or seaweed, right? So seaweed, it categorized as macroalgae. So as a matter of fact, macroalgae or seaweed, they represent the third largest aquaculture crop besides fish and also beside other aquaculture products. So you see, these are the current global seaweed market up until 2024. This is during the pandemic. Even though COVID-19 has been with us for almost 2 years plus, the market for seaweed is still growing. We still have demand for seaweed, meaning that people still love to consume seaweed, not only for food, but also for industrial application, right? I'll share with you what are kinds of applications that we use rather than having seaweed as a direct food, human food. Okay, they also can be used in other industrial application. All right, these are the top 10 seaweed producers. Okay, the first one, as we know, China is the first producer. Second one is actually Indonesia. Okay, our neighbor country, and I'm very proud to say that we are listed. Indonesia, Philippines, and Malaysia are actually listed as the top 10 seaweed producers. So I'm very proud with that, actually. So we are in the Asian countries among the top seaweed producers. And as you can see here in my slides, Indonesia and China among the countries that are very active in seaweed cultivation, meaning they are active with seaweed aquaculture. They cultivate seaweed in some places, and also they are also active with fisheries, meaning they capture seaweed from the sea and brought them to the land, as well as other Asian countries like Philippines, Malaysia, and so forth, and also Korea actually. All right. So these are the type of species that are commonly cultivated by some of the countries. As you can see here, Malaysia, Philippines, and Indonesia, they mostly cultivate Carpophycus species and Eucuma. Right, so these species are very famous nowadays for the carrageenan. Okay, what are the carrageenan used for? I will share that later on. So these are among the commercially cultivated red seaweed. Okay, I know some of us might be familiar with Gracilaria. I know in Malaysia we consume Gracilaria in some of our states here in Malaysia. Pyropia, okay, used for nori. And then we have Carpophycus. Carpophycus, even though they are red seaweed, they are not necessarily be red in color. Right? Some of them might be green in color, depends on the concentration of the pigmentation that they have within the species. Right? And also we have Eucuma and some of the red seaweed that being cultivated in other countries. And also these are the type of commercially cultivated brown seaweed. Okay, the most common one was Laminaria and Saccharina. Okay, Laminaria, it can grow up like human size. It's very big. Okay, that's why we call it giant kelp. Even in some of the European countries, they built like we call it sun city. Okay, solar city inside within the sea, and they grow Laminaria as the giant kelp inside the solar city inside the sea, right? And then next one is the commercial cultivated green seaweed. For the most common one we have is Colopa. Right, Colopa have been commercially consumed by local people in Philippines, also in Indonesia and Malaysia. And me myself, I love the taste of lato. It's very crunchy, and the popping sound make me very ease. And I really like the taste, the pepperish taste and the salty taste, the natural salt, right, from the sea. And also, first of all, me myself, I always ask myself, why do I consume seaweed? Why am I eating this kind of aquaculture product? Why am I eating this kind of macroalgae? Okay, one of the reasons is because these macroalgae, these seaweed have become food, part of food in Asian countries, especially in Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Japan, Korea, and China. We directly eat seaweed as part of our supplemental food. Okay, and then the second reason is because some of the industry, they need seaweed, they need some compound from seaweed to extract as part of phycocolloid. Phyco means the seaweed itself, the algae. Colloid means some of the compound, chemical compound that being extracted naturally from the seaweed and used for the industrial purposes. For example, in cosmetics, in fertilizers, and some in medical purposes, and also as a additive, food additive, and so forth. All right. So these are the pictures of the beautiful seaweed we have here. I think this is Carpophycus here being eaten in Sabah, turned into salad. Very nice. Okay. And then these are some of the processes, how we turn seaweed into something useful or something applicable. These are applied in the applied phycology. Okay, phycology means the algae itself, the study of the algae, all right? So normally we can extract something, chemicals from seaweed for further use, and we can do fermentation and also pyrolysis. We can turn it into some kind of gas or chemicals, all right? And then another question is, do we think that seaweed contain any nutrient? Okay, why people consume seaweed? We must really scrutinize why these people have to eat this kind of species, right? So let me share with you one of the video produced by Time magazine. Yeah, I hope you can hear the sound. As you can see from the video, it says that there are nutrients that we can find in seaweed, right? There are tremendous nutritional content that we can find in seaweed. However, there may be some people might not be suitable to consume seaweed directly. So we have to seek for medical doctors' advice first before we consume. Or maybe if you don't have any kind of serious diseases, it's up to us to consume seaweed. All right. Among the nutrients that we have in this seaweed are, we have polysaccharides or carbohydrates, some kind of dietary fibers, protein. They also have a lot of essential amino acids, lipids, and essential fatty acids like APA, DHA, vitamins, minerals, various pigments, metabolites, and antioxidants. All right. So if you are thinking of having seaweed as part of supplemental food, so you may think of it and you may try it. Some of it it is very accessible nowadays. You can order straight away from Shopee or maybe from other online shopping portal, right? And then so let's bring some seaweed to our kitchen. We know the seaweed have been cultivated. Some people may involve in the fisheries of seaweed. However, maybe less people talk about how to bring this seaweed species to our kitchen. Maybe the industrial player or what we call the companies that involved with this may produce some commercials, but maybe not within our attention. All right. So let's share some of the seaweed species that have been in the market long time ago. All right. We have nori, as I mentioned before, the Pyropyra species. We use nori for sushi wrapping. Here in Malaysia, we have Sushi King. I remember when I was in Jakarta, I've also eaten some kind of sushi in Jakarta. And also when I went to Manila, right, I've also experienced eating nori as snack in Philippines, right? And also we have kombu. Kombu is a laminaria species. Sometimes people in Japan use kombu to make to enjoy with hot soup or miso soup, right? And then we have wakame. Okay, people in Japan also enjoy wakame, which is underrare species, and also in Korea, they enjoy wakame. And in Malaysia, we have in Kelantan, Gracilaria species. This is a Kelantanese language, kerabu sare. Okay, people always consume it as part of their supplemental food, and it's very tasty actually. The salt is a type of potassium chloride, very healthy and very tasty. It's very nice to be eaten as pickled as well, right? And we have seaweed salad. This is very common in Malaysia, in Indonesia, even in Philippines. We have seaweed salad. If in Malaysia we prepare it like this, so I'm going to share with you this recipe. You may jot down the recipe and try it at home. If you cannot find the source of the seaweed, you may order it online. We have massively available, commercialized online, all right? And also we have fresh lato. This is famous in Philippines. Sometimes people just directly consume lato or the colopa species. It's very pepperish. It has some kind of compound that we call as colopin that produce the pepperish taste. Okay, and also very salty and very, very crunchy texture. Very nice to eat. And we have these are the ones that I just found within our Sabah waters. I call it as lato duit. It's a type of colopa species, and it looks like a 50 cents coin. Right, and then we have let me share with you nori. These are what we call high-end appetizer served in a restaurant in Japan. It looks very nice, and the taste is also very pleasing. And we have pickled seaweed salad. All right, this one is also served in Hawaii in US. All right, these are very tasty food. Okay, they serve as pickled. And also seaweed pasta, right? Some people use seaweed to make pasta. Okay, they use the seaweed paste and combine with pasta. Okay, and then they serve with scallops, sometimes with abalone. All right, and then some healthy people who are very health conscious, they use seaweed as part of the smoothies recipe. Actually, I've tried this recipe. It's very nice because you have the salty taste combined with the green apple sourness. It tastes very good actually, and it's very healthy. All right, if you want to enjoy the cold smoothies, you may use seaweed as part of it. Okay, and then I think we have healthy seaweed drink. Okay, if you love to enjoy cold drink, you may add some seaweed chunk inside your drink, and it may look nice, and it may taste very delicious, and you can taste the crunchiness of the seaweed, the chunky seaweed inside your drink. All right, and there are other seaweed products. Okay, as you can see here in Malaysia, we have agak classic is a jelly. Okay, a very classic one, classical jelly. It's made of Gracilaria species. And also we have vegan gelatin. Okay, if you are not meat eater, you may go for vegan gelatin that's made from seaweed. Okay, and also we have a coconut milk. This is actually from Indonesia. Okay, Kara coconut milk is very famous in Malaysia. Normally our mothers, they really love to use Kara santan, or santan is coconut milk in Malaysian language. All right, so this coconut milk is very famous here, and it's actually from Indonesia. All right, and seabird nest, I'm not sure if we have it in Philippines or in Indonesia, but we have it in Malaysia. Seabird nest is made from Kappa ficus and Eucuma. All right, and also we have soy milk that we have carrageenan compound inside the ingredient. Okay, why carrageenan? Because it acts as a gelling agent, thickening agent. Okay, extracted from seaweed. And we also have seaweed salad on the go. This is actually from Indonesia as well. All right, and we have instant seaweed salad. So very nice. And some people in Japan also, they produce a seaweed salad on the go, just like the instant noodles. All right, and then we have what other products? Let's see. Healthy seaweed snack. Okay, and we have seaweed chips. I know Indonesia is very famous with seaweed chips. And we also have seaweed noodles, this one in Malaysia. And recently, Malaysia has another product, shrimp kolapa or shrimp lato. They use a Japanese technology to make shrimp kolapa species and packaging. And then they sell it like a shrimp seaweed. And once you soak them inside water, it will look very fresh. Okay? And the taste is not different at all. It tastes the same, and it tastes very good. Okay. And then we have seasoning. These are actually from Ireland. They use Constrains species to make seaweed seasoning, because Constrains species, they have this kind of umami taste, right? That's why umami taste is very famous. So they use it as part of seasoning. And also I think we have these are some kind of seaweed also from I think this one is from Europe as well. Okay, the Mara seaweed. This one they said as fake bacon, or I can say it's a mock bacon, right? Because the taste is just like bacon, but it's actually a kind of seaweed. And also we have a non-food products, all right? That's why I said just now, not only food product. If you ever use Lush from the US, they also have face masks made from seaweed, okay? Fresh, nutritious seaweed used as a face mask. And also if you ever use Biotherm, okay? These are the facial, I think the facial and bath collection. They have bath product. They also have facial product, cosmetics, and also some kind of I think skincare. Okay, and also we have fertilizers. Okay, I think the famous company that produce the seaweed extract fertilizer is Unpad. Okay, Acadian marine plant. I think that's one from Canada. And also I think that's all. We have a lot of products made from seaweed, and some people prefer to consume it directly as a supplemental food, and maybe some of us can appreciate the existence of macroalgae and seaweed and try it at home. Thank you for listening, and happy trying. Back to you, Dr. Yuli.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Wahida, from nice presentation. I'm getting hungry after seeing your presentation. So many product in from derived from seaweed. We have some question here. We move to a question and answer session. Here you have 3 questions from Fitri Unpad. Have you ever been analyzed the red alga Asparagopsis taxiformis? It is recently known has a potentiality to reduce methane production. Maybe BMRI has the research about that. That is the first Yes, the first question, please, Mrs.
Yeah, for
Wahida.
me, myself, Dr. Fitri, I've never researched on this type of algae, but maybe in the future we can do it together. If it has the potential to reduce methane production, maybe we can work on it as part of fertilizer. Okay, but honestly, I've never worked with this kind of species.
Okay. The second one is from Salim Unpad. Can seaweed be a promising source of business in the culinary world? Maybe the answer is clearly yes. As now we have serious problem with pandemic, it is whether it will increase the production of seaweed or vice versa, relating to the marine activities like tourism and fishing, etc.
Of course, Mr. Salim or maybe Dr. Salim. Yes, for me myself, I think if we can turn seaweed cultivation into some kind of food business or culinary business, it's very good. It's a very promising opportunity actually. Okay, maybe you can come with some kind of innovation for the food product, or maybe non-food product. It's another opportunity for stakeholders.
Okay. The third is, there is any key point to look out for in the processing of seaweed into food so it will not lose its nutritional value, Ms. Wahida?
Yes, of course. There are certain procedures, there are certain processes that we need to maintain in order to maintain the quality and also not to lose the nutritional value. Right? There are some processes, for example, now if we do some extraction, there are some solvents that we need to use. Maybe some solvents are suitable, some solvents are not, so we have to be very careful. And also we have to be very careful in choosing what kind of method that we are using. There are various methods. However, in order to find the most effective one, you have to do try and error. Of course, there are processes and there are do's and the don'ts if you want to produce seaweed products.
Okay, okay. There is another question from Majid Khan. Can sea grape maintain all the quality during packaging for optimum intakes of its nutritional values?
Well, actually, there are research have been done on this. For example, the shrink technology that have been developed in Japan and also in China, they've studied the effect of this packaging technology, all right, towards the nutritional content of this colopa species. And surprisingly, the shrink technology is one of the I can say great opportunity, great technology to be used to preserve the nutritional values of colopa species. You may look for shrink technology from Japan. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. One last question from me.
Okay.
Maybe not all the harvest of seaweed is in good quality. Yeah, some is in low quality. And if there's any experience in Malaysia, how to use the low quality harvest of seaweed? Can we? Is that can use? It is possible to use for feed or something else maybe?
Yeah, actually, I've experienced some of the. Actually, the quality depends on your definition of the quality. Rather, it depends on the nutritional content or maybe the look, the appearance. Okay, some of the businesses here in Malaysia, the high quality seaweed, they will straight away selling it, process it, and sell it. Maybe import or maybe exporting out or sell it to the market. The low quality, they may use it as a fertilizer. In the seaweed cultivation bag, as you can see, if you use the seaweed, the dead seaweed as a part of fertilizer is also good for seaweed cultivation. And some of them use it as a compost. All right, as a compost for gardening. Very nice actually. And maybe some of it they just throw it in the sea, okay, just to balance it, because sometimes some of the farmers believe that the low quality seaweed is actually not low quality. Okay, you may just throw it inside the sea. Okay, just sometimes they can turn into sediment. This is what they believe. Some of the seaweed farmers in Malaysia here. Okay, but of course, for me, there is no waste in seaweed. The waste also can turn into something useful.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Majid can also
Yes.
comment that we also can use low quality dried seaweed for non-food application like
Yes.
you
Of
mentioned
course.
before.
Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Wahida, for the presentation and the answer for the question in this session. Ladies and gentlemen, we finally come to the end of part of this panel session of the talk. Before I close this panel session, I would like to take the conclusion what the speaker has present. We have knew that seaweed have potential, good potential to explore and have many derivative of product we can use for food and non-food application for food and non-food product. I would like to thank so much to the speaker for informative and interesting presentation today, and for all the participants for very active participation. I hope that the talk will give a good insight and new knowledge, especially in seaweed industry. I mean, please give applause for speaker and for you all. Thank you. See you next time and have a nice day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Yuni, for the moderation. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very honored to have you you all here this morning. So before we close this session, this talk, I would like to inform you that in the chat room there is attendance, a link for your attendance. Please fill it up, because we will send the certificate, the e-certificate, and the materials of today's event to your email based on this data you provide. Again, thank you very much for your attendance and support. See you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you all.